All right, manual of arms minute or multi-minute. And I'm going to talk more about remedial action for clearing malfunctions and what that entails. Talked about immediate action, right? I'm making sure the magazine is indeed seated. I manually cycle the action. Charging handle goes all the way to the rear, goes all the way back home under its own power, and I know I should be good to go and I can get back into shooting and finishing the work I need to. If I get that mushy trigger or I get the feedback from the charging handle that, hey, there's an obstruction and you need to go into remedial action, I need to unload the gun and then reload the gun. All right. Now I'm going to go through some steps. Right. It doesn't always matter what you do, but I can remove the magazine first, or I can go to lock the charging handle to the rear first. All right. Either one is fine. The reason I am recommending you lock the charging handle to the rear is doing so will take pressure off the magazine, make it easier to remove, although most of the time it's not a huge issue because I got a lot of purchase to rip this thing out. And now because I had it locked to the rear, the obstructions this time fell free, but they won't always. So as soon as I have this magazine removed and the bolt locked to the rear, I like to stick a couple fingers up in there and just try to dislodge them, because sometimes, especially with live ammo, it'll lodge itself in the chamber. So I dislodge it, then I am going to send the bolt home. Reinsert. Now I have chambered that first round, right? And if something had been lodged inside the chamber, or if it had slid in during this whole clearance process, it would eject that out and I'd have a fresh live round chambered and I'm good to go. So I completely unloaded the gun and then reloaded it. You can, if you should choose, before you insert that magazine again, to rack the charging handle a couple of times and then reload the gun. You can choose, if you want, to lock the bolt to the rear again and then reload the gun and do a bolt lock reload, because it is easier to insert a full mag when the bolt is locked to the rear compared to when it is forward. How you do it is really going to depend on what kind of success you have with your rifle in that. I know I can get these magazines in on a forward bolt. All right, some guns just don't really cooperate as well as others, and the answer is not to load your magazines with fewer rounds. All right, understand what mags you have are going to play well with your different rifles, and use those mags with those rifles because they play nice. Cycling it multiple times, yes, will ensure that there isn't something potentially lodged still in the chamber. However, you are adding time to the process compared to just send the bolt home, insert the magazine, and cycle it. All right, that vast majority of the time is going to solve your issue. Where you will see it not necessarily solve your issue is you're on a range and you're shooting hundreds and hundreds of rounds, maybe going into the thousands. Maybe you already have thousands and thousands of rounds on the platform and things are getting worn out. Your gun's getting really hot, so the rounds, are just going to overexpand in the chamber and the extractor's not going to grab onto it, right? Things like that are an occurrence because you're pushing the gun really hard in training. In normal firing, like say you're in a fight, you're not going to get those same responses. There's a lot of things that will happen to you in training because you're pushing the platform really hard, so you're going to get a difference in the types of stoppages that you experience and just how bad they can be. That's not to say that in the middle of a normal fight you can't have a really bad stoppage. However, they are most of the time the cause of just pushing the equipment really hard. All right. It's also not to be confused with something actually going catastrophically wrong with the gun. I've seen on impingement guns, I've seen gas tubes get bent, and that creates issues with light strikes and hard pulls trying to cycle the action. I've seen guns come out where the rifle, the barrel is not actually fully attached, so you get headspace and timing issues. There's a lot of things that can happen based off of poor maintenance or just parts breaking down. As far as things that can happen to you through normal firing and cycling, these processes will get you through it and back to shooting.